Brought to you by Thomas Allgaier and Frennis. This edition highlights key LinkedIn posts on electrification and battery technology in weeks 6 and 7. Frennis supports automotive enterprises and consultancies with market and competitive intelligence, so product teams and strategy leaders do have the optimal base for their strategic decisions.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are looking at a very specific, and I have to say, a very loud slice of the industry from mid-February 2026.
Loud is the right word. Looking at the research pile this week, I got this distinct impression that the industry has finally graduated.
Graduated? How so?
We're not looking at science fair projects anymore. This is heavy industrial scaling.
That's the perfect way to frame it. The posts from week 6 and 7 weren't asking, will this work? They were asking, how do we make this pay for itself?
Right. It's a shift from deployment to execution.
Exactly. We aren't just putting chargers in the ground. We're trying to figure out how to blast a megawatt of power into a truck without, melting the grid.
Or bankrupting the logistics company in the process.
That too. So we've got a few big flusters to get through today. First, this absolute explosion in heavy-duty trucking infrastructure. Megawatt charging is finally here.
And second, the hardware itself is getting a lot smarter. We're talking robots, predictive maintenance, and yes, even cow manure.
And we will wrap up with what feels like the holy grail, vehicle to grid. It looks like it's finally moving from, let's call it pilot purgatory, to an actual product.
Okay, let's start with the big rigs. Heavy duty. If you were scrolling LinkedIn in mid-February, you just could not miss the acronym MCS.
Megawatt charging system. It was everywhere. And, for good reason. Peter Van Apeldoorn flagged this, and he really, really nailed the why.
It's not just about the cool technology.
No, not at all. It's about labor law compliance.
The EU mandatory rest periods.
Exactly. In Europe, a truck driver must take a 45-minute break after 4.5 hours of driving. That's it. Non-negotiable.
And if your electric truck takes, say, 2 hours to charge?
You've just broken the logistics chain. The truck is sitting there idle when the driver's ready to go, and that just kills the economics.
But with MCS, you can charge from 20% to 90% inside that mandatory 45-minute window.
Precisely. The truck fits into the existing human workflow. And that is why we are seeing this mad rush to deploy. I think it was Claudia Viol who reported on a major site in Prague.
The one from E.ON and MNN.
That's the one. They've got 400 kilowatt chargers active now, but the entire site is prepped and wired for a full MCS upgrade.
And it's not just one-off sites, is it? Now Riddell found a massive development in Lutterworth in the UK.
Massive is right. This isn't 2 chargers in the back of a gas station. They are planning 32 MCS-ready chargers. That's a proper freight corridor hub.
And it's global, too. Saw Al-Khatib shared some footage from Jordan of electric trucks hitting ultra-fast chargers.
So the hardware is rolling out, but here's the friction point, and it's the one the industry doesn't always talk about enough, the cost of the electrons themselves.
Because pulling a megawatt from the grid at 5 in the afternoon is expensive.
It's ruinously expensive. The demand charges are insane. If you spike the grid during peak hours, the utility company penalizes you, and they penalize you heavily.
Right. Tommy Liesco laid out the math on this, didn't he?
He did, and he argues that for an electric truck fleet to even compete with diesel, the energy cost has to stay under 0.1 euro per kilowatt hour.
That is a very, very tight ceiling, especially with current energy prices.
It is. So how do you cheat the system? You use BESS.
Battery energy storage systems.
Right. You don't plug the charger straight into the grid. You plug it into this massive battery buffer. You fill that battery at 3 a.m. when power is cheap, and then you dump it into the truck at noon.
So you're peak shaving. You just flatten out your demand curve so the utility doesn't hit you with those massive fees.
Correct. And you avoid the grid upgrade costs because you don't need that massive connection pipe. And you avoid the peak pricing. And we're seeing this move from theory to reality. Inabehi Ufit shared a huge win from Perth, Australia.
This was the Toll Group and Asahi Beverages project.
Yeah, they just launched the largest route-to-market electric fleet there.
With the Volvo FE trucks, I think?
Yes. And it's not a test. This is a commercial operation doing 36,000 deliveries a year. They've made the math work.
And speaking of making the math work, and maybe the biologist John Matheson found my favorite story of the week.
Oh, the farm charger.
In Steinkjer, Norway.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's a public charger, but it's powered by biogas that's produced right there on site.
From the farm's own cow and chicken manure.
It sounds funny, but it's actually a brilliant example of decentralized infrastructure. You take local waste, convert it to electrons, and sell it directly to a customer.
No massive transmission losses, no grid strain. It's perfect.
Let's pivot to the tech that makes all this possible. Because as we add all these trucks and all these chargers, the grid is starting to scream.
It really is. Harvey Knight shared a pretty staggering number. Global grid investment hit $470 billion in 2025.
Wow.
And EVs are fighting for that capacity against, AI data centers. Everyone wants more juice.
Which brings us to BYD. Syed Haseeb Hassan did a technical breakdown of their new megawatt flash charger. And when I first looked at the numbers, I thought there had to be a typo.
A lot of people did. They're claiming a 1 megawatt output from a single gun. That's enough to charge a heavy truck in minutes.
But the grid connection is only about 200 kilowatts. That's like a standard fast charger.
Right. If you know even basic electrical engineering, that sounds impossible. You can't give out more power than you take in.
Unless you have a buffer.
Unless you have a buffer. So it's that BS concept again, but it's integrated right into the unit, and it's on steroids. Syed explains that they're using a battery with a 4C discharge rate.
Okay, for those who don't speak battery engineer, can you unpack 4C for us?
Sure. C rate is just a measure of how fast a battery can discharge all of its capacity. 1C means it takes an hour. 4C means it can dump its entire energy load in just 15 minutes.
So it's a fire hose versus a garden hose.
Exactly. The BYD unit sips power gently from the grid all day, and then when a car plugs in, it blasts that stored energy out at extreme speed.
That solves the infrastructure problem for so many places that can't just dig up the street to lay thick new cables.
It democratizes ultra-fast charging. But while BYD is solving the power issue, others are solving the space issue. Michael Mayer-Rosa spotted a solution in China from a company called Sino.
This is the one that addresses getting ice-seed.
Right. When a combustion engine car parks in an EV spot, the Sino solution is a robot, but it's not one that rolls on the ground. It hangs from a rail system on the ceiling of the parking garage.
I saw the video of this. It's mesmerizing. You just park in any random spot, open your app, and this robot zips along the ceiling, lowers a cable, and plugs into your car.
It turns every single parking bay into a potential charging station without having to install hardware at every single spot. It's flexible.
It's very efficient. But, whether it's a robot on the ceiling or a cable on the street, we have a very low-tech problem threatening all this.
Security.
Yeah. Callum Godfrey highlighted a case of cable theft. Copper is expensive, and these chargers are often just sitting ducks.
But the solution he shared was pretty intense. It wasn't just recording the theft.
No, passive recording is useless. The thieves are gone in minutes.
This was an active system. It detected the thieves approaching at 1:30 in the morning. And instead of just calling the police, the operator voiced down live through a high decibel speaker.
Just starts yelling at them.
Pretty much. Step away from the charger. Imagine hearing that in a dark parking lot at 2 a.m. And it worked. The thieves just fled.
It shows that as this becomes critical infrastructure, protecting it becomes just as important as building it.
And maintaining it, too. York Kolb brought up predictive maintenance. MVV Energy is using data to spot anomalies like a tiny temperature spike in a connector before it fails.
So we're moving past the era where you just pull up to a charger and hope the screen isn't broken.
Reliability is becoming the new luxury product, definitely.
Okay, let's move to our third cluster. And this is the one that's been 5 years away for the last, 10 years?
Vehicle to grid, V2G. The eternal promise. The idea that your car is a battery on wheels that can sell power back to the grid.
But it seems the wait might actually be over. Dr. Leod Simon and Michael Rahi dropped some massive news out of Germany.
Yeah, BMW and Eon have launched the first commercial V2G offer for private customers.
And just to be clear, because we see pilots all the time, this is not a pilot.
No. If you have a compatible BMW and their specific wall box, you can sign up today. Your car stabilizes the grid and you get paid for it. It's a standard tariff, not some science experiment.
And the incentives are finally getting heavy enough to actually matter. Christoph Fuchs noted a deal between Ford and Octopus Energy in the UK.
This one is the game changer. Starting in summer 2026, they're offering a tariff where if you participate in V2G, you get free charging for up to 16,000 kilometers a year.
That's wild. That's basically years worth of driving for an average person. The car effectively has zero fuel cost.
Correct. And just think about the total cost of ownership calculation there. Suddenly, the EV isn't just a car, it's an asset that earns its keep.
It subsidizes its own lease, basically.
But I feel like there's always a but with V2G.
There is always a but. It is incredibly hard to implement at scale. Alison Jeffers pointed this out with the new Renault 5. The car is ready. The tech works. But the whole chain of enablers, the chargers, the software, the regulations, it often breaks.
Jan Tord JV mentioned this in Norway. It's the interoperability standards, actually.
Yeah. ISO 151-1820. It's the language the car speaks to the charger to negotiate selling power back. And frankly, a lot of chargers just don't speak it fluently yet.
He called it plug and pray instead of plug and play.
Which is perfect. Frances Bell had a really strong take on this. She argued we just need to stop doing these bespoke pilots.
She's right. We've proven the tech works. We don't need another test with 50 cars in a lab. We need standardized, boring products where you just plug in.
You don't need a PhD in energy markets to understand your bill.
Exactly. Though we are seeing some cities just brute force this transition. Robin Berg gave an update from Utrecht.
Oh, Utrecht is the poster child for this. They're ripping out 10-year-old chargers, even though they still work, and replacing them with V2G units.
They are betting the entire city's energy resilience on the batteries of parked cars. It's a bold move.
Very bold. Okay, for our final theme, let's look at the batteries themselves, because there was some chatter about donuts this week.
The donut battery. Marco Miller posted about this.
And I'm assuming it's not pastry-based?
Sadly, no. It refers to the internal structure. The headline number was 400 watt-hours per kilogram. For context, that is significantly higher than most commercial batteries today.
Which are hovering around 250, maybe 280, Wicheti's wrong.
Right. So the comments section was immediately skeptical. Is this vaporware? Is it just a supercapacitor?
But Marco debunked the magic. He explained it's likely not a new chemical discovery, but a manufacturing one. They're probably using a bipolar stack design.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that actually mean for the cell?
So in a traditional battery pack, you have a lot of what you'd call dead weight. Copper current collectors, cooling plates, casing, wiring. It's all packaging.
Right, the overhead.
Marco suggests this new design uses screen printing to deposit the active materials directly, which removes about 40% of that passive weight.
So it's not that the chemistry is twice as powerful, it's that the packaging is half as heavy.
Exactly. You're just stripping out all the non-energy components. And it's a reminder that we don't always need a new molecule to get a breakthrough. Sometimes you just need to build the box better.
You know, Rachel Lai had a similar argument about Tesla, didn't she? This whole debate of LFP chemistry versus NMC.
Which is better, yeah.
And she argues that debate completely misses the point. Safety isn't just about the juice inside the cell. It's about the system engineering around it.
The thermal management.
The cooling loops, the BMS software, the physical spacing of the cells. You can take a safe chemistry, put it in a badly designed pack and have a fire. Or take a more volatile chemistry, put it in a great pack like Tesla's, and be perfectly safe.
And speaking of safety architecture, Ivan Miranda raised a really critical point about how China is influencing all of this.
This is the geopolitical angle. China is implementing these new, incredibly strict standards. The big one is no thermal propagation.
Meaning if one cell ignites, the fire cannot possibly spread to the cell next to it?
Yes. The pack has to contain the failure completely.
Yes.
And because China is the biggest EV market in the world, that just becomes the de facto global standard. If you want to play, you have to meet that bar.
Charles Lister backed this up with supply chain data, too.
He did. I mean, China just dominates the battery supply chain. South Korea is a distant second. Europe is trying to catch up. But this is the China price, now coupled with China standards. It's the new entry ticket.
So if we look at weeks 6 and 7 as a whole, what's the big takeaway here?
I think it's maturity. We aren't just celebrating that an electric truck exists. We are now solving the 45-minute charging window problem.
We aren't just excited about V2G concepts. We are seeing commercial tariffs that offer free mileage.
And we aren't just inventing new chemicals. We are refining the manufacturing process itself to strip out dead weight. It feels like the industry is hardening.
It's becoming less about the vision and much more about the balance sheet.
And that is exactly where it needs to be to scale.
Well, that is a wrap for this deep dive. If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also, check out our other editions on future mobility and market evolution, next-gen vehicle intelligence, and commercial fleet insights.
Thanks for listening. Keep questioning.
See you next time.